Welcome to Mastering Agility. If you want to listen to authentic conversations with the most inspiring guests, find like-minded people in the Mastering Agility Discord community, or both online and face-to-face events, this is the platform for you. Grab a drink, sit back, and join professional Scrum trainers Sander Dorr, Jim Sammons, and their guests in an all-new episode.
Jim, how are you doing, brother? By the time that people are hearing this recording, Christmas has passed. What are your current plans for the coming Christmas days, for the holidays?
I am going to be driving a couple states away to see some family and friends. Looking forward to that. And probably be normal holidays, pretty chill, just a couple meals, some presents. Hopefully the weather holds. It's been very cold here. It's actually not too bad right now, but cross your fingers that the weather holds. And then I'm hoping to come home a few days before my work week starts so that I can just
relax.
Veg.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what you call it, but over here we call it veg. Like, I just need to couch surf for a while and do that. I don't do that enough.
No, we call it pretty much the same thing. My plan. So those are my holiday plans, apart from going to see my parents and just family in general. I'm going to be in a vegetative state on the couch. I am going to test the stretching possibilities of my couch, like the pillows to the max. Now, you have cold weather. Over here, it's been stable for 3 months, but it's been sucky and stable. It's been raining for 3 goddamn months.
Yeah.
So I was hoping for a white Christmas, but that's not going to happen.
We had some snow this week. My dog, as you know, Roxy, she loves snow. So she has just been begging to go outside all day, every day. And it's so funny because she went to the door. I forget what day it was, like Tuesday of this week. And she looked out expecting to see snow and looked back at me, and her eyes, like, I swear I speak fluent dog now. And she was like, "You asshole, where's all the snow? Like, what did you do?" She was so accusatory in how she looked at me. It was the cutest thing.
I'm pretty sure she sees you on your lawnmower just driving back and forth. And she's like, "Did you use that machine to get the snow out of the way as well, Jim? What the hell did you do here?"
It could. I have a video somewhere of her riding the lawnmower, and she looks terrified at the beginning. And then once she realizes she's safe, she just kind of sits down and she's like, cool. The human that I've trained to feed me and do everything else is now driving me around, and she kind of enjoys it.
He's not just a feeder on 2 legs. He's also my chauffeur.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say is I was telling a group this morning, like, I work hard so my dog can have nice things. That's basically just how I exist.
Forget about Gilly. It's about my dog.
Well, Gilly gets nice things too. She works hard so the dog can have nice things.
Fair enough. We still have a long list of open questions coming from the audience in our mural board, in the Mastering Agility mural board. So I felt like this would be the perfect moment to catch up, pause, answer those questions before we're going to go into another sick list of guests in the new year. What do you think?
Yes, we've got some doozies lined up, and I'm pretty stoked about 2024. So I think reflecting is good.
Good. What would be your highlight of the year, like the 2023 year, when it comes to the podcast?
In terms of the podcast, well, I mean, honestly, just getting started, like just having this platform and being able to talk with you and learn from you. And I mean, I think every single guest and audience member that's asked a question or interacted has honestly taught me something. One thing I realized this week, and I think this is going to be my answer to you. My highlight is I have realizations as I talk. Like I was talking to a doctor this week, and he was asking me some questions, and I'm like, great question. As I talk through my answer, I'm making some mental connections. So to me, it's the highlight is having a platform to talk to people, learn from people, and maybe help some others with my experiences.
I think you could take away the maybe. I'm pretty sure you've done that.
I hope so, but I didn't validate. So like we don't know if we've delivered value until we validate it. And I guess that's fair. I guess, to be honest, we have had a number of validation comments come from people and listeners. So yeah, I'll give us credit for that. So what about you? What's been the highlight 2023?
Well, coming from the audience, Abby says, what's the highlight? Abby, duh. And I think the audience, like just the general audience of the community that's helping us build the brand even better. The Discord community, how that's really come to life, the merger with Serious Scrum now and expanding the platform as it is. I mean, it started like just a podcast, a very simple podcast about 3 years ago. And it had its ups and downs with me and how I tried to find my way through the whole landscape, where I wanted to position it and where I wanted to go forward. And now with you on board since the beginning of the year, pretty much, I think it was April or March, that was a huge boost. But just everything that happened afterwards, like the merchandise that we created. There are hoodies, there are stickers, there are mugs, there's shirts, there's I don't know what not. The studio.
We're giving away books.
We're giving away books.
You've done meetups. We're talking about recording some of these live at conferences and other events next year. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in the works. Is there any other top secret behind the scenes stuff that you feel like we can share yet?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, it's not necessarily secret. I mean, we shared this a couple of times before, but next year we're definitely going to do more like studio meetups, physical studio meetups, where people can join our TV studio in the ZB office in Hilversum. I'm planning to get you in as well, so we're really together where you don't have to put your face on the screen again like the last time. Even though you look good on the screen, dude, but still, I would love to have you on board in the actual studio, because that's going to make it a different experience. That's one where we're definitely looking at making the platform even bigger and better and more engaging with even higher level guests. I mean, that's going to start January 8th already with product guru Teresa Torres, which I'm stoked about that she's joining us. I mean, if you look at her talks and Mind the Product and the work that she's been doing, the books that she's been writing, that stuff looks amazing. And I think just now coming from Dave Snowden, now going to Teresa Torres, there's a ton of other guests that we're looking for, that we're talking to and engaging. So just leveling that up is that's already looking really good.
Yeah, agreed. And I've told you, but I can tell everybody else, I am confirmed to be in London for Lean Agile London. I've got a couple days at that conference, a few days of work in London, Scrum.org face-to-face, and then I'm going to be going to the Netherlands for a client visit, and I'm sure we'll be recording some stuff there. I'm going to Charlotte in a couple months. There's another trip to the Netherlands planned for some client work. And yeah, I'm just excited I'm going to be taking some of our mobile podcasting stuff, and you just never know where we can record. Like the first thing I did without you, because you were traveling and I was traveling, was the last time I was in London, and the audio was terrible, but the conversation was great. So we're going to be a lot more prepared this year. And you'll probably have some conversations with people without me. You've got a different travel schedule than I do, and I'm just stoked to have a nice mixture of, well-known entities in the industry. And when I say industry, I mean very broadly. I don't want to talk to Agilists. I want to talk to people in sales and marketing and leadership and basically anything to do with the world of work. And people who are practitioners, peers, colleagues, students, newcomers, experienced veterans, et cetera. Like I love kind of balancing people who have a wealth of experience in a platform, and then people who are just like you and I, out there mixing it up every day, making mistakes, having success, etc.
Who would be your number one guest? If there's one single name that you would die to get on board, who would it be?
Johnny Cash or Alan Turing. No, honestly though, let me think. Gosh, come back to me. Do you have an answer while I think?
I want to go for Dan Pink. That's one. I think that would be that's the first name that really pops to mind right now. Erin Meyer. Looking forward to or not looking forward. I mean, I would be looking forward if we actually had a plan. I would love to have Erin Meyer on. It's a tricky question, isn't it? I mean, there are so many good people and knowledgeable people.
Well, okay, since neither of us are really throwing out one name, I'm gonna give you a couple. I think it would be a hell of a conversation to have Jocko and Leif on, or either of them.
Yeah.
I would love to have David Marquet on. And I think Gojko Adzik from
Gojko Adzik.
He's written a number of books, Specification by Example, and John Cotter would be up there for me.
But if there's anyone listening who has an opening to any of these people, please get us in touch, and we'll try to make it work to get it done. Speaking of which, if there's one single favor that for the next year that I would like to ask our audience, or just regardless of whenever you're listening, if you like what we're doing, please help us grow the platform by just rating us on whatever platform you're listening with, either 5 stars, just follow us, give us a review, because that's going to feed the algorithm in such a way that we get higher ranked, and therefore we're going to get more exposure, which makes it easier for us to build the brand, get better giveaways, get higher level guests, and so on. So you're basically helping yourself by helping us.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just a sad fact that, there's a lot of competition for ears and eyeballs these days. And if you like what we do, hopefully that's a reasonable request. Yeah. And I've been I talked to Fred from our audience, and he's got a network of people. And we talked about the idea of kind of mentorship and just different networking things. So if there's someone in your life that you value, or maybe I'd love to hear who some of your dream guests are, and who knows, maybe somebody in our audience knows them. Maybe one of us knows them, or at least is willing to do the legwork to go try and build that connection. That would be awesome, because it's not what we want. I mean, it is a little bit what we want, but it's also we don't know what we don't know.
No.
We don't know who we don't know, perhaps.
Exactly. Help us broaden our horizons. Now, speaking of our horizons and broad, there's a super broad question in our mural. Bear with me. And the question says, how important do you think it is in general to find out reasons for a particular issue? I discussed the problem of lack of trust with some manager the other day and was told, let's not waste time on trying to find out where it's coming from, but focus on how we can change it. Can we know what needs to be changed if we don't understand the root cause?
Ooh. Oh, God, that would have been a great question for Dave Snowden last thing. So I'll fake it and give you or maybe not fake it, but I'll give you my thoughts. And I don't know if it's scientifically sound. I would say maybe it depends on if you're worried about that problem recurring again. If you're going to look at an anomaly and one thing has happened one time, and yeah, maybe you don't have to worry about it happening again. Maybe it was one of those extremely rare things that has an impact, but I would say that we talked on that episode a lot about anomaly detection and looking at the exceptions to the rule, because that's where a lot of learning and improvement can come from. So I don't know. This is a broad question. I'm going to need to think about it some more. But my initial reaction is, and I know that I give you a lot of shit about this, but it depends. And I think one of the biggest things that depends on is this truly a one-off, or do you just think it's never going to happen again, or it has never happened, or are you just seeing something, the tip of the iceberg for the first time?
Mastering Agility only works with organizations aligned with our values, and that's exactly why we are excited to work with our sponsor. Scrum Match is the free platform for professionals run by professionals. On Scrum Match, true Scrum Masters get hired by companies serious about the popular framework. The awesome people behind this platform have decades of experience, among them a professional Scrum trainer for Scrum.org. They've interviewed, trained, and coached hundreds of like-minded people, and they use this exact experience to make you stand out from the crowd and help you get in touch with companies looking for true Scrum Masters. So go to scrummatch.com and sprint to your dream job. Yeah, that makes sense. I tend to lean towards not agreeing with it depends. I think it's we cannot really change anything for the better, truly change, without understanding the root cause. I mean, we can patch it, sure, but I don't think we can really fix it. And I think, just looking at the engagements that we've been in, I think we're too eager to jump into resolution mode rather than really trying to understand where is this coming from, what do we need to change, where is the root cause. So what's really causing this? I don't know, but we're going to try to fix it anyway. I mean, if you see your shirt bleeding, you're not just going to change the shirt or put another shirt over it. You're going to try to find the wound, right?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to know, is what you're seeing the problem? Is it a direct indicator of the problem, or is it 5 steps removed and it's a symptom of an outcome of a problem 5 steps ago? And, when you think about systems thinking, that is one of the most undervalued, underrepresented skills out there, to be able to step up and back from a system and look at all the different variables and all the different changes and how they interrelate, and how making a tiny little move over here can have a very different outcome over here. But I'm a problem solver. That's why I like what we do, because I like solving problems. So it would be very unlikely for me to say, I don't see value in understanding what caused this, but I might immediately move on to say, okay, cool. We think that caused it, but what caused that? Or maybe what the asker of this question is saying is, solving the acute outcome is a lot more important immediately than solving the why. So like in your example, if you're bleeding from your chest, well, yeah, you could probably sit there and think about like how you got shot or stabbed or whatever, but you might want to think about treating the wound first.
Yeah, in the previous episode with Dave Snowden, we were talking about the super short attention span that organizations seem to have these days, and Yannick made a rightful comment in the chat, in the audience. Why don't you want to spend time on this? Why are we so focused on the short-term gains? And why are we not trying to really resolve anything and fix it for the better? And we've seen too many organizations as well just go into production as soon as we can, just for the hell of it, for the sake of releasing, because then it seems that we're busy, right? We've delivered something, sure. But if you're building your house in quicksand, it might look nice initially, but if as you watch it go down in the sand, you're probably going to be slapping yourself in the head for a little bit. And it's no different with organizations. I mean, fix your shit first before you really put it out, whether that's on a product or on the process side.
Yeah. And Yannick's adding some really great content in the chat as well. Is if we don't treat the underlying issue, the wound could stay there. It could make us sick. If you don't treat a wound, you can get sepsis or an infection, etc. And that's how things spread. That's how a small problem becomes a medium-sized problem, and then ultimately a cultural change. And so I think I'm with Yannick in this, is that I don't like the response of, we don't have time to worry about the problems, we just need to deal with the outcome. I mean, that's kind of like a firefighter friend of mine is, they have a rotation in the fire department he's in, between active firefighting and fire prevention, fire education, inspections, and they do continuous learning and development and problem solving and very sciencey type of things. But maybe the most enjoyable days for him is the days you're grabbing a hose and putting out a fire. But that is not a way to create long-term safety and stability for people and businesses and homes and all that stuff. You have to do all of that.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of ties into another question that's in there. How does the Scrum Master help the team become more effective. And I think that's a good segue into what you're saying here. Scrum Masters, when it comes to the Scrum team itself, Scrum Masters are the ones accountable for causing the removal of the impediment, right? Not removing the impediment itself, but causing the removal of the impediment. And it's just that, specifically that, where Scrum Masters need to be in such a position or need to take care of themselves to get in such a position that they can leverage the organization to remove or start removing the impediments. Because we've seen too many times happening where we just put on our blinds and we just pretend that the issues are not there. We keep going and nothing really improves. And I think that's the interesting thing about many agile transformations or adoptions of the Scrum framework, where we just adopt the framework and not change the behavior. So it's really easy for consultants to get hired and ask, well, can you please change this framework, or not change the framework, but can you help us do Scrum? Sure, we can help you do Scrum. Executing a framework like Scrum, something that's as lightweighted as this 11 to 13 pages counting guide, it's easy to execute that. But to truly change the behavior for the better, to make sure that you instill psychological safety, that you really dive into what we're trying to fix with the clients that we have, that we're and that's something that really resonated with me from the previous episode, where Dave said it's not about a framework for building products, it's about building the environments where products can thrive. I think that's a really interesting hook that personally I undervalued so far. I mean, I didn't spend too much time really putting that out. I think I would blame myself for being too much on the product side rather than using Agile or using Scrum as an organizational environment changing framework.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I thought that was one of the most insightful comments of that whole episode. And that episode was packed full of insightful comments and sound bites and things. I thought about that one quite a bit on the drive home that day, which was a pretty long drive. Is all too often people get focused on creating output, and I have to build this product and I have to jam as many features in this product as I can. And they don't step back to say, what are we doing to make time to create a product discovery team or a product discovery culture or organization or whatever. And one of the things I've been hearing and feeling a lot lately in my conversations with people is, they'll be talking about something they want, whether it's a simple change to a screen or a report or whatever, or the customer wants this. How do you know that? Well, so-and-so told me. Well, who's that? Well, it's another person in sales. Well, who told them? Well, they troll the online forums and they read the surveys that go out. How many people did it go out to? How old was the comment? Was it one comment or was it 1,000 comments? Like, was it statistically relevant feedback about something that they need? And I'm constantly disappointed at the quickly decreasing quality of answers I get as to why we need to do something. And it just leads me to kind of come back to what Dave said, which is, are you creating an environment where products can begin to be discovered or emerge?
Yeah. I'm just trying to collect my thoughts around that. Something that I guess I've been seeing a lot is that we're on the verge or there seems to be this urge, maybe that's a better word, of finding the next silver bullet. Scrum has been successful for quite a while now. And it seems so powerful, and it still is if you apply it correctly, but it doesn't bring the effects in the same amount of time that people want to invest in it. And then we're just starting to look for something else, something that's Scrum on Coke, and then we can figure that out where we don't have to put a mirror in front of ourselves and really figure out what we need to change in the organization in order to make it work. No, let's just figure out a framework that is not Scrum, because we've tried Scrum. Scrum doesn't work in our organization. Hint, yes, it does. You don't. But we're trying to figure out something else that will solve all of our issues magically. So then what?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, like looking for that. Everybody's trying to look for that golden goose or that silver bullet, whatever you want to call it, instead of maybe considering that things are good as they are. Like that is one of the biggest realizations that I've had and that I've helped other people see in their own products is maybe you're done for a while building features. Like what makes you think you've got to constantly be jamming more and more complexity and features and stuff into a product? And a lot of people over the years have told me, well, if I'm not doing that, well, what should I be doing? Or why am I here? Like I'm a product manager, so isn't that what I'm supposed to be doing? And it's a great conversation to have because I don't see it that way. I'm not a product expert. I'm not a Seth Godin. I'm not any of the luminaries in the world of product design, UI, UX, all that stuff. But I've delivered some pretty cool products to the market that customers like and love and still use. And it makes me feel good to be able to log in and still see them thriving. And it's actually interesting when I log into something that a team that I work with built 10 years ago, and I can still recognize it. It looks very similar. I mean, it might have new features. It might look more modern. There's probably a lot of changes behind the scenes. But the fact that it's thriving and hasn't had to change drastically and be overhauled tells me maybe the people who were figuring stuff out back then did a good job uncovering the need.
And coming back to that question, so how do Scrum Masters help the team become more effective? How often have you come across organizations where the accountabilities of a Scrum Master are really instilled as they should be?
Very infrequently.
Right.
But
Why?
let me answer your question with a question. Do the Scrum Masters have to be able to do that? Does a Scrum Master need to be able to coach every person or team on every problem, even on the team that they're serving as?
No, not specifically, not per se. I would say in a picture perfect world that would be nice, but he or she should be given the space to slowly grow in the function that they're supposed to in the job that they're trying to do to stick to Clay Christensen's word. But what happens, at least in my experience, is when a Scrum Master grows and he creates a team that's effective and that is self-managing, self-sustaining, knows how to build their products and how to use Scrum, then what's the next step? He or she gets another team and another and another. Instead of moving vertically, they move horizontally. That's where they get more accountability and more stuff to do. Not on the vertical ladder. No, don't. Please just stick to your Scrum team. We'll handle this on our management side. Huh? That's not what. No.
Yeah.
Scrum Masters are there to work with the organization and not just with Scrum teams.
I think it was this week, maybe last week, where I saw some post on LinkedIn, and I'm paraphrasing, but it basically was describing some advanced concepts or, intermediate concepts in the world of software development, and basically said, if your Scrum Master can't do that, they're shit. You should get rid of them. And if you're a Scrum Master and you can't do these things, you should go find another job. And my response to that is thinking about servant leadership as an idea. And yes, I know that servant leadership and true leadership, all that stuff around Scrum, but is what I've told Scrum Masters is, okay, if that's the case, if your team needs help with something and it's not your area of expertise, or maybe you don't know the first thing about it, focus on the serve instead of the lead. Like I have a Scrum Master that I'm working with at one of my clients right now, and he's doing this amazingly well. The team needs certain things that are not in his area of expertise. So he's going out and facilitating events. He's getting speakers from other parts of the company to come in and talk to the department about these other things. He's finding and networking expert A on team A with expert B and team C to have a conversation and maybe develop a community. And that's a great skill. And we shouldn't diminish that is a way that a person, call them a Scrum Master or whatever if you want, can help their team without having to be the expert in everything the team could possibly need, which is not reasonable.
Then how can we start moving that needle into the direction where we need to be? So how, for instance, a Scrum Master who, let's say he or she has been working for a year, the Scrum team itself has become more effective. Obviously, we cannot really go on top of the pyramid right away. We cannot take 4 steps vertically. We need to do something, right? We need to create some more accountability. We need some area just beyond the Scrum team where we can start to operate with a new organization. What's the first thing that you would advise?
Well, I think, and I'm going to answer your question directly, but I'm going to come back for 1 second to the firefighter friend of mine. It's one of the things that I find fascinating that he talks about is how he spends his weeks and months. It's a lot of things that to an outsider might not seem like value add. They have an amazing gym at the firehouse. They eat a lot of meals together. They travel together. They go to other fire departments' funerals around the country to show respect to other people. And I'm like, how the hell do you find time to do all of those things and then know that like beginning next Tuesday for a 60-hour stretch, you're the one who's running into burning buildings, literally sometimes, or grabbing a hose or, getting a kitten out of a tree. And he goes, well, all of those other things are what builds the muscles and the camaraderie and the teamwork and all the other stuff so that when I'm running into a burning building with my team, I know that I'm capable of running up 4 flights of stairs, or that I know because I've worked with somebody and ate with them and visited with them that I can trust them and depend on them to do their job like they can trust me to do my job. And I'm like, that is super cool. And that's how I'm going to answer your question is, part of being a Scrum Master to have a wider impact in a company is building the skills that you may need in the future. So if you don't have a skill and you want it, fine, build it, learn it. If you see that the company needs help in facilitation, go build that skill. But maybe there's benefit in you building a skill that you maybe don't need today so that when you do need it, or when you find yourself in a meeting or an interaction or a crisis, that you got it. So I think that's how I would answer your question is plug the big gaps in your own capabilities and then become a constant learner and focus on continuous improvement in yourself so that you can add more and more value. And then when you have some power or capability or skill that nobody knew you had and you can deploy it, you look like Batman. Instead of saying, oh crap, we need that today. Let me go buy a book on that and I'll be better at that next quarter. That's going to happen to all of us. But the less that can happen and the less that you can, and the more often that you can add value right away, the more that team's never going to let you go and they're going to see a lot of value in you.
Didn't we see basically the same pattern when COVID just hit with the first lockdowns and we needed to start working from home and then shit hit the fan and you heard every organization say we need to be more resilient. We need to be better prepared. It's a year and a half later since the last lockdown or since the last we really have to stay inside right now kind of message. How often do you hear organizations still talk about we have to be resilient? We got to stop being reactive rather than proactive. Be resilient, be able to cope with change. We need to know why we're really doing this. It feels to me like we're falling back a little bit.
That is all for today. Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, let us know by hitting that like button. Share it with friends and colleagues, sharing a message on LinkedIn, joining our warm and welcoming Discord community, or attend recordings as a virtual audience. You can find all the relevant links in the show notes. We hope you'll tune back in for the next episode of the Mastering Agility podcast.